Hey, I'm Kenneth Weidsta. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my Leica Talks, all things Leica. So today I want to talk about a little gem of a camera. This is a Leica 2, and it was at a local antique sale. It wasn't at a camera store. It was an annual antique sale they do at the fairgrounds on the first of every year, and it was inside of a showcase. All these antique dealers get together and they show different, regular antique store stuff to sell. And this one dealer had this inside her case. It was inside a little showcase so that people weren't holding it or touching it. And it actually had a case with it. And I talked to her and I asked if I could see it. And I said, I would love to buy it just for the viewfinder, because that viewfinder is this little tiny accessory auxiliary viewfinder that is a 35 millimeter view. So instead of using a 50, I can use a 35 and I can see the whole frame. And as small as it is, it's actually quite good of a view for me. With my glasses, I can see it perfectly. And she said, no, I won't sell it separately. She said, everybody's interested in that. Which I'm like, really? Who? But it's an antique sale. There's a whole bunch of like pottery and, wooden sleds and just the regular stuff you would get at an antique store. And the quality of the top of the body is a little bit brassed up. It's definitely not in perfect shape. It's a little bit in user shape, which is fine for me. The fact that it has a 35 3.5 Elmar on it instead of a 50, that's a nice little bonus, because now I've often used these cameras with a 50 millimeter lens. Now I get to get one with a 35 millimeter lens. And I asked her, how much was it? And she said $700. And I said, wow, $700. I wish I could just buy that piece. And she said, yeah, I can't. And I said, I would give you 5. And she says, oh, I can't go that low. And I said, okay, I'm going to walk around the rest of the fairgrounds and the rest of the show to see what else there is here. And before I leave, I'll see if you want to sell it. And she said, okay. So there was a way I planted the seed of a price. So then, an hour later, I had gone through the rest of the antique market. And I went up to her and I said, hey, I'm leaving. I would still go 5. And she said, okay. And the beauty is that viewfinder is quite rare and sells for probably as much as the camera does. And again, I'm not buying it to resell. I'm not looking to get a bargain to take advantage of a markup and make a mint on it. I'm using this one. And that's a great little 35 millimeter finder. So those deals are out there, but it wasn't at the camera store. It wasn't at the KEH. It wasn't any place where you would expect to find it. It was in an antique market on the first day of the year that they hold at the fairgrounds. You can find this. This antique dealer has an antique store just north of here. If that show weren't going on, you might find that inside her antique store and get the same price. I've seen Speed Graphics at antique stores. I've seen Rolleiflexes at antique stores. You can find them. And at antique stores, one of the benefits is they don't always know what they have. They don't always know how to check it out. So they're not exactly an expert on it, and every price is negotiable. But let's talk about this. If you say, is it perfect? It's not. It's got some wearing on it. The back side has a crack in the leatherette, and every time I would touch it, it would kind of come off. So I put a bead of super glue on it. That's probably not the way you're supposed to do it, but I'm just looking to make it usable. I sometimes drop it into this half case that I use, so then I know that the back won't split open again. But I don't really like the size of the case, so if I want a small handle, there it is. But most of the time I put this in my pocket. And that's the goal, is I want to be able to always have a pocketable camera. Now I have a 35 3.5 in my pocket, with a viewfinder that's so short, it actually will fit in there. And that's the beauty of finding great deals when you don't expect them at places that you don't expect to find them. The 3.5 on this, I really like having a 35 with me. For me, a 35 is, I'm a wide angle guy. I'm very much about how much can I put into a photo and get the feeling of the people who are in my photo. I'm a documentary photographer. I'm certainly a people photographer, and I want to be able to capture, as a street photographer, the people who are in my frame in their world. And the 35 does that really well. I think even better than the 50. And again, to be able to have now this with, I have it with the little 15 millimeter Voigtlander with the accessory finder. I have it with a 35 with this little accessory finder. And then the regular 50. It's a pretty good system of cameras that really will go anywhere and you won't even notice them because these are so pocketable. That's my favorite thing about the small Barnack Leicas is they're pocketable. The Leica M, at one point I put a collapsible 50 on it and I put a flat lens cap on it, and I was able to put that in my front jeans pocket, but it was big. This doesn't feel big. This feels slightly bigger than a phone, and highly recommend finding these old Barnack Leicas. This is the 2, so it doesn't have viewfinder windows that are right next to each other. There's a little separation for them. You can still use it, even though it's got a 35 on it. You can still use it to focus. But I think the most important thing I can talk about this is learning how to focus without looking. So because you're using a wide angle lens, it gives you a little bit more leeway so you can get away with more. But this is infinity. This is 10 to 12 feet. And this is somebody about 5 feet from me. Those are the 3 positions I use. If you get to know them, oh, I'm shooting something far away. Hey, look, I'm shooting something about 12 feet away, like a street photo. Hey, look, there's a person next to me. I want to photograph them close. These are those 3 positions. Infinity, 10 to 12 feet, 4 or 5 feet. That's the way that you can use this camera in a very quick way as a street camera, because you get really good at quick focus. So a lot of times when I'm doing street, I'll keep this straight down. I know that that's going to get me most things in focus. I'm shooting at f8, I'm shooting at f11, 500ths of a second, everything's going to be in focus. Right there is a good place to be. So learn how Leicas are used. You don't think Gary Winogrand was always focusing his camera? He wasn't. He was zone focusing. He was getting it placed about where he needed it so he could just kind of quickly pick up the camera and shoot. That's what this camera is really good for. Leica 2, not the latest. It's a Leica with a lot of brassing on it. It's not in perfect shape, but it works. And for me, that's what makes a Leica great, is that they're always working. No matter how old they are, they're working or they're easily repairable. Leica 2, highly recommend them. If you find a black one, that's kind of a little treat, even though they definitely will show some brassing after some use. But again, I'm not a collector, I'm a user. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button and I'll be back next time. We'll talk more Leica. Hey, as always, here's the good light.